Hello friends and foes, I'm Dead's Edge. Today I'm giving you my top 10 tips for surviving the early game in Vayne. Let's go! Let's kick it off with tip number 1, and it is the first thing you should be thinking about whenever you sign into a new game and load in for that very first time, and it is clothing. You don't want to end up like this chap here, who unfortunately has been spawned in without any clothing and is just in his undergarments. Now, clothing is really important, not just because it makes your character look really cool, but equally because it actually offers you some protection. If you start walking around without any footwear on, for example, you could walk through rubble and that will actually cut your feet up, and then you'll need to apply bandages, stuff like that. So what you want to make sure you're doing every time you load up is putting some clothes on. You can obviously choose in terms of the effectiveness of clothing items. They all vary. If you hover over them, then that'll give you sort of a detailed understanding as to how much protection it's going to give you. In addition, once you've equipped things on your left hand side, you have also got the option for face and upper and lower armor too. The other things that you want to look out for is anything which has got the shield like this. So these are things which are typically going to give you some more armor. So they've got a higher armor value. Sorry, I'm going to have to drop the cone, aren't I, for this one. So let's take that off. And then we can also apply a helmet, and that actually offers us some more protection. So when we go out and about and we start to take on zombies, we can be suitably prepared to do so. Let's move on to tip number 2. And tip number 2 is create hydration stations. What do I mean? Well, basically in every house that you go into in the early game, make sure that you're running that tap everywhere. So the sink can be filled up with water, the bathtubs can be filled up with water, the toilets can be filled up with water. And what you basically are doing here is you're making sure that every house you go into, you're actually securing a water source for that sort of early game. Water can actually go bad, so that's something to bear in mind. And equally, if you use it to wash, then again, you can actually make it into sort of tainted water, which you don't want to have to deal with. But if you go around and you make sure that you're filling up loads and loads of sinks, bathtubs, and everything with water, then that means that you've got places to go back to drink, or even just to wash if needs be. So you're clothed, you know about water. The next tip is about our utility slots. You'll notice on the heads up display that I've got at the moment, all the information I've got available to me is that it's a bit chilly, or now it's pleasant, and now it's pleasant in terms of my clothing as well. You can see that on the right hand side. But when we're starting to loot, some of the things we need to get our hands on are these utility items. So you've got a cell phone, compass, GPS, map, and thermometer. GPS, cell phone, and map all kind of allow similar things, so that's all to do with your sort of ability to map. If you don't have any of those things, you won't be able to see the in-game map. So if we go in and now we equip the map into our utility slots, which is just down here, that now means that we can open up the map, we can add things like markers as well, like I've done here, and then we can sort of save loads of points of interest. We can change icons and everything like that. Now what you will notice is on this map it doesn't say where I am, and that's because I've got just a boring paper map, and a paper map wouldn't tell us in real life where we are, so you'd have to orientate yourself to figure out where you are. However, if you have a GPS or a cell phone and you pop that into your utility slot, then you'll notice that your own player marker actually starts to show up now, and so you can see where you are on the map and you don't have to do that sort of self-orientation. You'll also notice that if you get a cell phone GPS, then you can get the heads-up display at the top of the screen, which shows sort of key interest points and shows you north, south, east and west and what direction you're pointing in. If you have a compass, then that also achieves the same thing. The other thing that you can get is a thermometer. So if you have the thermometer and you pop that in one of your utility slots, then that now will build up your heads-up display. So on the right-hand side, rather than it just saying pleasant or chilly or hot, it now tells us what the temperature is, and it tells us, you know, what our body temp is as well. And then you've also got the timer at the top. So when you equip a mobile phone, then you will get the time up at the top right alongside the date. That's utility. Tip number 4 is, well, backpacks are great. So as soon as you find a backpack, make sure you pick one up. it will really help in terms of your extra capacity that you'll be able to carry without getting over encumbered. Now, the best backpack in the game at this point is the combat pack. Allows you to carry an extra £150. Very rare, but ultimately it is the best one. So if you find one of those, make sure you pick it up. The next one is the hiking backpack, which is £100 carry capacity, which is fantastic. Then it's the gym bag at £75, and then it's the school backpack at £50. All of them incredibly helpful in terms of lugging that extra loot that you're looking to carry around. Great, so you're clothed, you've got your backpack, and now you want to run around and fill it up as much as possible and with anything that you can find. I get the temptation, but realistically, in early game vein, you need to prioritise your loot. I'd be starting off really looking for weaponry, so baseball bats, anything like that are really helpful. Guns, I may not prioritise because they can be quite weighty, and that will make sense when you get to tip number 8. But ultimately, yeah, weaponry, clothes, armour, they're really important and they're really key to your early game experience. After that, you want to be looking obviously for food, so things like tins goods won't go bad. Fresh food will eventually go bad, so you want to make the most of any sort of fresh pizzas you can find and fresh meat. Same with water, same with drinks, right? They can go bad as well. Obviously, if you're filling up every sink and bath in the neighbourhood, then you're probably going to be fine, right? But yeah, you really want to prioritise those things. In addition, then you want to start focusing on stuff that you're going to craft with, so wood scraps, iron scraps, anything like that. But as long as you prioritise your loot, you can always come back for it. Leave it in a container in a house, put it in the boot of your car, whatever. Prioritise and make sure that you're not getting over encumbered, because over encumbered means death. Everyone talks about death when it comes to Vayne, but nobody's talking about destruction, and they should be. You need to start destroying things in Vayne because it's really fun. You need to destroy things to gather resources. That was the line. I messed it up. So yes, virtually everything you find inside a building in Vayne can be destroyed. Bins outside of buildings too can be destroyed. Provided you've got the right tool, you should be able to destroy 99% of things. Now, destruction is really important because the resources that you gather can be used for crafting and can be used for building. All you need to do is make sure that you've got the right tool for your destruction. Here we go. So if I get rid of my screwdriver, you can see here that I need a screwdriver to take apart the TV. Now everything else I can destroy, and for each different item you'll get different resources. So provided you've got the right tool for the job and you don't care about the furniture you're taking out, destroy it because you'll get resources for crafting and building. Now my second destruction related tip is tip number 7, which is destroy, don't lockpick. Of course there is a skill for lockpicking, but equally if you don't have the skill for lockpicking, or you don't have enough lockpicks, which I always find myself in that situation, is that you can destroy instead. So provided you've got the right tool equipped, you can actually go into the menu on a door and you can click destroy. Now why wouldn't you do that? And then you can just walk straight through it. You can also do the same thing with some containers as well and still receive some of the loot. Don't know how long this will be in the game for, gotta be honest, but equally you can destroy. An added bonus to this tip is axes are fantastic. You can use them for chopping down trees. Why wouldn't you? And you can also use them for smashing the hell out of a door. So if you don't want to go down the destruction route or you don't have a heavy hammer to do the destruction, use an axe, whack it, and you'll get through instead. Psst, it's tip number 8. And tip number 8 is, if you haven't guessed already, stay quiet. Zombies in Vayne, they love noise. So if you're going to go walking around with bang bang sticks making big bang bang noises, or car engines with big vroom vroom noises, or car horns with big honk honk noises, be ready to face the consequences. Especially if you're playing on settings with higher population and with hordes enabled, they will come for you with the noise. So in the early game, recommendation is just to ease off the firearms until you've got enough to deal with the consequences. Last but one tip/trick is that when you come over to standard workbench, an advanced workbench, or a fabrication workbench, you can actually make/upgrade some of your weapons. So you've got the options down here to make things like hand grenades. You can break bottles and use them as melee weapons. But equally, you've got the option to create spears out of sharp things plus a wooden rod. And so that's like forks, screwdrivers, knives. I think you can even do one with scissors if you want to. But in addition to all the spears, which are really cool, You've also got the ability to make spiked baseball bats and spiked wooden ore, spiked wooden planks as well. So this can actually make the weapons that you've already got better in terms of how much damage they inflict. If we go for a second and we have a look quickly at our baseball bat, our default baseball bat in terms of melee base damage is 15, and our base DPS is 18. Weighs 5 pounds. Whilst the spiked one does weigh half a pound more, you'll see there that the base damage and the base DPS is actually better. It also upgrades it to a bladed melee damage type, so therefore the damage you're going to inflict on zombies is different to that default sort of blunt weapon. So if you find yourselves with an ore or a plank or a baseball bat as a weapon, find some nails, hop to a crafting bench and upgrade it, because then you can start swinging something spiky instead of blunt. And the final tip for the early game in Vayne, tip number 10, is find somewhere that you can call home sweet home. And the key thing here is you can find some absolute clangers in terms of base locations. So something which is really hard to defend, something that's got loads of windows, something that's got absolutely no retaining walls, no fences, nothing like that. And they could be a really cool location, but they're obviously going to be hard to defend, going to mean you're more vulnerable to those undead folks. Equally though, you can find base locations which have got things like this, like flower beds, greenhouses, and they can have things like sheds or garages, and some places are even completely surrounded by fence, apart from a couple of tiles, so that it doesn't take an awful lot to keep the undead out. That's tip number 10. So thank you very much for watching and following along. I hope these have been really helpful for you. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to hear more about. Don't forget to like and subscribe.